Yeah. Oh, there it is, yeah.
That's the one.
I won't be distracted.
You were born in England, I believe.
Yes, I was.
What were the circumstances that brought you to America and via India too, I believe?
Yeah, well, my father is Anglo-Indian. He was born and raised in India. And my mother is Irish from Dublin. And they met in London and had that glorious event called me. And then my dad came here because he felt there was more opportunity for him here, especially, being Indian at the time in England wasn't great. And so, yeah, he came here because he just thought there would be more opportunity for my brother and myself, and I'm pretty glad he did.
Did you have formal vocal training growing up?
No, I went to Catholic school, and I sang in the choir, and was trained by Sister Dominica, who was a very frightening-looking woman, but other than that, no, I've just always loved to sing, though. And singing in bands is certainly a training all of its own.
Talking about your musical influences, was there a uniform quality amongst the artists, the songwriters that were inspiring you?
I don't think so. I would say that I have a pretty eclectic taste in music. I mean, I love the Beatles right from the start. I also love Patsy Cline, and the other night I went to see Willie Nelson, who was amazing, and I like jazz. But in terms of songwriters, I think the pantheon of the greats that we all love, like Paul Simon and John Lennon, and I love Tom Waits and folks like that.
Now, you first made it onto record via a group called the Tearjerkers. What can you tell us about them?
The Tearjerkers referred to ourselves as a mini-skirted girl group. We had, it was kind of like a Charlie's Angels thing. I had dyed my hair red. There was a brunette and a blonde. And, we put a lot of attention into wardrobe and songwriting, and it was a ton of fun. And we released a single on an independent record company here called Sounds Good, that it was like a little, vinyl 45, and it got a tremendous amount of attention. We got a regular play on K-Rock, which is a tastemaker station here. That was a lot of fun. So that was a great group to be a part of. A lot of enthusiasm.
And following that, there was Maggie's Farm. Can you give us a rundown on that group?
Maggie's Farm started as a acoustic three-piece thing where everything was a ton of harmonies, which I love harmonies on everything. And myself and a guy named Mark Lee, who I'd known from around town, were the primary songwriters in the band. And it was a really fun band, and I thought it sounded really good. And we got signed to this label called JRS, which was a subsidiary of BMG, like on our second time out. And we went into the studio, and I tried to put a band together so that, when we recorded, it would be a cohesive band rather than just hiring studio musicians to play on it, so we could, tour with the same people. And we made the record, and it had its ups and downs. That band was a lot like a Behind the Music. Do you have that there, that show?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, so it had all those elements. One of the band members got addicted to crack cocaine and pawned all of our equipment. The record company went bankrupt and didn't pay us. Left us stranded out on the road, and so it had its ups and downs.
Sounds like there's a movie in that story, I think.
If it wasn't such a common story.
Yeah.
Every time I watch VH1, I'm like, it happens to everybody, I guess.
You got to play at Farmo, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a fantastic experience for us. It was an obvious thing. We, heard about Farm Aid, and our band was called Maggie's Farm, so we thought it was an obvious hookup, and it was great. I got to meet Chris Christopherson. I was waiting to go on stage, and very, very, very nervous because I'd never played at an arena before. And Chris came up to me and said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm really nervous, and I got to use a loo, and I don't know what to do." And he hugged me, and he said, "You're going to be great. You want me to introduce you?" And he did, and the crowd went wild because it was the first really big star they'd seen all day. And then we became friends with Chris, and I've opened up for him on a string of dates when he's in the West Coast, and he's such a great guy and such a, a great songwriter. So it was really an amazing experience. All the artists stayed at the same hotel, so we'd be going down the elevator with, Tracy Chapman and Neil Young. It was really amazing.
Now, was there a defining moment when you knew it was time to try solo?
Well, pretty much, because of the experience with Maggie's Farm, I was very traumatized by the internal band problems and also the problems with our label and the business. And as things fell apart, I didn't have the heart to put together another band. And you kind of get your heart broken. It's like if a marriage breaks up, it takes you a little while to want to do that again.
Yeah.
But at this point, actually, I'm more band-oriented again, and it's happened very naturally. The band that I have now just came together really wonderfully and naturally, and it's a lot of fun. So, I've always preferred the concept of bands. I've always, wanted to be in the Beatles. Mm-hmm. Rather than being a solo artist. But there's a time for everything, I guess.
Now, your first solo album was recorded at various times at various places. Was there a particular reason for that?
Money. Getting money together to go into the studio and finding studios that I could afford. A lot of places would give me time when no one else was using the studio, so you'd get a call that day that, hey, you can come in tonight, and I'd scramble on down there. But it was mostly budgetary restrictions.
Yeah.
That was the reason for that.
Was it a bit distracting at all, having to record in fits and starts like that?
In a sense, it's good. I always like to. I'm excited about a song the most at the time that I write it. So, to me, it's almost like a birthing process that you write a song, and then you maybe play it out live and kind of tune it up, and then you want to record it and get it out of your system before you can move on to the next song. So I kind of like working that way rather than amassing a lot of material and then recording it. Although that's probably what I'm going to do next time, because again, it's cheaper that way if you can record everything, all the rhythm tracks at one time and layer it that way.
Now, when you came to do the second album, did you go into the studio with a set plan to do anything in particular different to the first time?
Yeah, well, the second time I was working with a producer, which I hadn't on the first album. So there was more of a vision for what we were going to do. We had it planned out more, what the songs would be, and I had a lot of songs to choose from. So there was more thought before going into the studio in terms of what I would come out with, rather than putting it together like a patchwork quilt,
Yeah. So you had a game plan this time around.
I had a game plan.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's quite a few songwriting collaborators with you on the album, as well as some you wrote alone. Which is a more comfortable situation for you?
I like collaborating. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes you get stuck on a third verse, especially. Where am I going to take it? And it's nice when somebody comes in with that perfect line, or else tells you that something that you thought wasn't so great really is just fine. It's nice to be able to bounce things off of people that you respect And I think if you're working with people that you respect and that, you know, hopefully are at least as good or better than you, then it kind of raises the bar.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a little competitive, which is always, you know, it's nice.
Are you a harsh judge of your own work when you're writing?
I usually kind of I believe I know when I've written something that's good, and then you can tell by audience reactions. But sometimes, you know, at the time I'm a harsh judge, and usually it takes years for me to be able to listen to it and go, "Oh, that's all right." You know, but at the time, yeah, I'm a harsh judge. But looking back on it, I can appreciate things more when you get some distance from it.
Do you have a criteria when you're writing that helps you decide when the song is ready?
I think when you don't think there's any words that you can put in that would do a better job. You know what I'm saying? That
yeah.
If there's a better way to say something, because, you know, a lot of songs I think are pretty basic. You know, most songs work on very primary sorts of emotions and relationships, and so to say something that's very basic in a new and different way, you know, is the challenge of it. So I think I know when a song's done when I feel like I've exhausted all the word combination possibilities.
There's a wide array of instruments and players on your record so far. Is that type of diversity in your sound something throughout a record that's important to you? It's something that I'm not sure is a great idea for me all the time, because I want to have a cohesiveness in my sound, but I try to do whatever serves the song the best. But when you're like for instance, now I'm working with a band, so that there's more cohesiveness because you've got the same guys playing on your record that you do have playing live, and you want them to play on everything. You know, as a solo artist, you just bring in who you think is the best player for the specific song. But I don't go out of my way to make every song sound different, but it sometimes turns out that way if that's what I feel like serves the song the best. Yeah, yeah. Now, what's in the pipeline in terms of recording plans for you?
Well, like I said, I'm working with a band right now, which has got some wonderful people, great musicians and great writers, and really good friends, very importantly. And we're playing around at a lot of just places around LA, a lot of clubs, and just trying to hone our material. And then we're going to start recording it probably in February. We'll go in and try to start working on our next record.
Excellent. Is there a game plan this time around?
Pardon me?
Is there a game plan this time around for the musical direction?
Well, I think what I'd like to do, and what I always feel is the hardest thing to do, is to capture what's there, what's live. You know, in the band that I have now, there's wonderful camaraderie on stage, which, by the way, when I went to see Willie Nelson last week, that was part of the greatness of the show, is that they all really liked each other, and they all were so enjoying what they were doing that it just was infective. And I feel our band has some of that as well, and I'd like to capture that. I'd like to make the record as fun as the shows are. Sure.
What about your live work over there? What's the extent of your touring?
Well, at the moment, I'm mostly just playing around Los Angeles, you know, because we don't have a giant budget for touring, and you know, everybody's got to earn a living. So luckily, there's a lot of places around here. I'd love to, when we complete our next CD, go out on the road and try to sell some.
So you're playing with a regular band, or you're primarily solo?
No, playing with a band, playing with the same group of people, and I like that. It becomes like a family. That's always, you know, what I wanted.
it's wonderful being in a band and having a common dream, and when you find people that you really connect with, there's just nothing like it.
Well, can you give us a rundown of the players in your band?
Well, my husband, Josh Weinstein, plays harmonica and bass and guitar, and he is a television writer. So he also helps me a lot with writing. And another guy, David Allen Gruber, who he's an actor and a comic as well as a musician, plays keyboards, and he's just fantastic. He's a real talent. And a guy named Thomas Chan on lead guitar, and a guy named Scotty Cromos, who also is a television writer, on drums.
Terrific. And just before we wind up, Allison, where would you like to be, say, 5 years down the track in terms of long-term career goals? If we were to chat again in 5 years, what would you like to be chatting about?
I would like to be, chatting about how many times my songs have been played in parades and annoying people because they're so popular and played in malls too many times. I'd like to have my songs, whether it was myself singing them or somebody else, gain a lot more exposure.
I'd say there's a pretty good chance of that.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Allison, thanks again for your time. It's been a treat to finally catch up with you after all this time.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad to talk to you, and thank you so much for keeping me in mind. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Best of luck with the new album in the new year, and we'll keep an eye out for that, and we might catch up again once it's done and have another chat.
Well, I'll send it on to you when it's done.
That'd be great.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Allison. Take care.